is going on, DGen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Valspar Championship. Not as usual, Tyler could not make it this week. He decided never to be on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast again after last week. And what happened? No, I'm kidding. He's flying back from Denver right now after winning $150K in the Fantasy Basketball World Championship. So make sure everyone go out, give a shout out to Tyler. He'll be back next week. But this week, our resident fill-in, Mr. Ryan Baroff from the Golflandia podcast. Ryan, what is up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, man. Happy to be back. Kind of wish we had a week off or 2 or 3, but we're going right back at it for Valspar week.
Yeah, I do have to say, first off, before we get the pod started, we do know that this pod is sponsored by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use promo code MMN. Get yourself a matching deposit bonus for up to $100. I love that site just because it's so easy to use. I hate new things, you know what I'm saying? But like the interface, the way you can pick and choose your guys, who you want to go low, who you want to go high, very, very easy, even for an old head like me. So go over to prizepicks.com, get yourself a little bonus, and win some motherfucking money. Yeah, I agree with you 100% there, Ryan. I mean, I could use a fucking break right now, just because, I mean, I don't know. It's just we've had these elevated events that have been so strong. You know what I'm saying? And like a bunch, like 4 of the last 6 weeks or something like that, 3 of the last 5 weeks. And now we get to this event and it's sort of, I don't know. It just doesn't get my juices.
So it's honestly, you know, it's a drop stronger of a field than I expected, right? Yeah. With everything going on, you get Spieth here and JT and Fitz. So there's some guys here, but yeah, interesting. I think, you know, we'll talk about it, but everyone's going to just bet a bunch of mid-range guys that kind of plug your nose numbers and try and get lucky this week.
Yeah, that's usually the way it is. But let's talk about last week, the Players Championship, aka the 5th major. Probably not going to be ever called that again without the guys over at Live. And then just the way they're doing all these elevated events, like every event could be like a 5th major because there's so many good golfers playing each week in these elevated events. You know, it was a fun tournament to watch. It's always a great tournament to watch. It was, you know, the first couple of days a little windy, and then, you know, Saturday, I don't know what happened. I guess they had a little bit of rain on Saturday, and people were just pin hunting, except for my golfers that I rostered. Those guys all sucked, but everybody else pin hunting, going low on Saturday. And then Scheffler looking sort of human in the first 5 or 6 holes on Sunday, with, you know, a couple of guys making moves like Hideki, Homa, Hovland even got to -10. You know, Minwoo was up there, tied him. You know, and then, you know, when Scheffler had made that bogey, I think Minwoo had a triple. And that's sort of, you know, that didn't help. And then, you know, he put the pedal to the metal. From 8 to 13 or 8 to 12, birding 5 straight to just knock the tournament off and get that victory. What do you think of the event?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting with Scheffler, and it makes him unlike Rahm and unlike Rory, is that he can beat you with every part of his game, right? Like, you know, Rory's going to beat you off the tee and probably with putting. Rahm is going to beat you with putting and driving pretty similarly. Scotty, he does it all. He's a super underrated iron player, super underrated wedge player, which you see. I mean, he hit so many shots from 120 yards to 2 feet, right? And then his short game, right? I think you mentioned when he chipped in on 8, it really turned the whole day around. He was not playing well up until that point. It looked like he was probably going to make bogey. Maybe Minwoo would have the lead again there. He chips in, birdies the next 4, and he really didn't break a sweat doing it.
Yeah, I mean, he got into trouble off the tee a few times during the event, but he's so good when he's in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, like making that shot, the smart play, you know, going for it when he can from Pine Needles or wherever he is, because his his miss is usually a pull. And so, you know, he's in trees or in woods. He finds a way to make the smart play. Either if he has to lay up, he'll lay up and then hit that wedge to whatever, 5-10 feet, make that par putt. Or he'll do something spectacular if he sees the opening. He's just so good at playing out of trouble. Because, I mean, you know, when it comes to driving the golf ball, he's not as good as Rory. He's not as good as Rahm. but he gets himself into more trouble than those guys off the tee. But he finds a way to have that not blow back on him, where you see guys like Rahm and Rory who, occasionally they will hit something wild and then they just can't get back into the hole, and it's a double, especially Rory. You see that with Rory a lot. With Rahm, you can get in that trouble, but he just finds a way out. He's so good at that. It's really impressive the run he's gone on with 6 victories before his 100th, but he didn't have his first one until his 70th or something like that, which is pretty insane. Personally, for me, I've been on a slump. Definitely on a little bit of a slump. I think I have to change the way I go about cash in these elevated events. Like, the 3-stud punt sort of combo that I go with normally, I think works well in weeks like this. Sure. Like top heavy, weaker field events. I think it really does. But I think in these elevated events, what we've seen somewhat is a higher 6 or 6 percentage, a lot higher 5 or 6 percentage. And because of that, I think I have to go a bit more balanced when it comes to these elevated events in cash. I can't go, panty dropping into the low 6K range for a cash, randomness. I mean, last week Doug Gibbs sucked, right? And I was like, okay, it's like 40% chance he makes the cut, but I have the other 5 guys that I really like. Well, one of those guys shit the bed, Keegan Bradley, and then I was done for the week. And I had no outlet to go, because Gim was probably only like a 40%, 30% to make the cut. At $6,100, I was going to take that to have my other 5 guys, because I thought the upside would be there too, and the upside just hasn't been with these guys either. They've been finishing. I mean, I think I had a couple of top 10s last week, a couple of top 15s, but it just wasn't enough. So I think that's the way I'm going to go about cash from now on in these elevated fields. In this field this week, we're going the same 3 and a punt. We're doing it again. Any other strategy tidbits you're seeing in these elevated events that we're sort of getting the hang of now, 4, 5, 6 events in?
Yeah, I mean, I think last week was a little bit different. Obviously, Rory missing the cut as a very popular play, Rahm having to withdraw. Rahm, I mean, he shot 1 under the first day. Ball striking was off the charts. He probably would have been there with Scotty over the weekend. Scotty was playing well enough that I don't think it probably would have mattered, but you could have seen them 1-2 very easily. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you for the most part. I try and avoid the chalk in that sort of mid 7K, low 8K range. But I really wasn't shocked by who was up there, right? Scotty was there. Ty Hatton's been playing great. Victor Hovland's been playing great. I did fall into the Keegan Bradley trap as well, unfortunately. So I paired him with Rory as well. So my week was done quickly. But no, I think what you're seeing in the elevated events is 1 or 2 of those top guys will be there. So I don't think you have to go balanced, but maybe instead of 3 studs, we do 2 studs, right?
Well, I mean, by balanced, I mean not dredging the 6K range, basically. Trying to find some like hidden gem down there. It worked a couple of weeks ago.
I'm doing it this week. I don't care.
Well, it worked a couple of weeks ago with Mullinax, but I still didn't win. I had a guy in second place in Mullinax top 10. I had 3 or 4 in my cash game cornerstones to make the cut. I went 5 or 6, and I didn't cash. I didn't even sniff the cash line. I mean that's it's getting a lot tougher in these cash game streets, especially in these elevated events, that I think I have to switch the strategy around. Usually I'd go like 10K, 9K, 9K, something like that, and then go to like 6,300, and then get like a $7,500 golfer and a $7,200 golfer. What I think I'm going to have to do is probably go 10K, 9K, 8K, 2.7, something like that. Something in that balanced range. And, unless there's someone I love, maybe in the higher 6K range, I can go, but instead of dredging down below, go for guys who've actually like done well here recently that you can try and find in that upper 6K range. Probably the smarter way to go. And that's probably the way it's going to go for me once we get these elevated events back going. I think the next one's match play. All right.
We got one next week, and then you got the Masters coming up, and then you got the Heritage right afterwards. It's a lot of stuff.
So they're all coming back. So before we get anything else you want to talk about last week?
No, I thought it was good. We saw some names that we didn't expect to see up there early on. Ramey, and he's surprisingly kind of stuck around a little bit. Aaron Rai, but at the end of the day, I mean, we've seen these elevated events. the top guys are winning. So
All right, let's get to the listener league from last week. The winner was Clam Digger Ball. Clam Digger Ball, I think it's his dog with a frisbee as his avatar. So
there
I'm
you
always
go.
a big fan. Always a big fan of dog avatars. Can't beat those. He had Scotty Scheffler, who of course won 27% owned in a listener league. Morikawa, who had a really strong start, but just sort of plateaued the whole weekend, couldn't get it done. 12% owned. He finished in, I think, top 10, 13th.
Yeah.
Hovland, who was one of my cash game cornerstones, he finished in third. He was 23% owned. Hollywood Hoagie, who we both like, me and Tambo really, really liked him, thought he was going to miss the cut. And then he just decided to go out there and go ham on Saturday. Another thing about last week, sorry to interrupt Clam Digger Ball, but it just came to my thought. And I just lost what I was going to say. So let's just keep going. Hovland, he had Hollywood Hoagie, who came in, barely made the cut on the number, luckily, and then went ahead. He was about 7% owned, finished in, I don't remember, someplace, third. He finished third as well.
Fourth or third, yeah.
Yeah. Keith Mitchell, he was in 17% owned, finished 35th. And Kramer Hickok, that's the low play that I probably should have used right there, because I know Ben Coley was on him, and I thought about it for a second. I was like, maybe I should just ride Ben instead of going with the stupid Korean. Should have went with Ben because Kramer Hickok, he made the cut, 44th place, 5% owned. What'd you think of the lineup?
Yeah, pretty some. I played a lot of Hickok. He seemed like, I mean, obviously risky, but one of the biggest misprices on the board. I mean, he's been making cuts consistently. Iron play has been great, and he was a flat 6K. You could do whatever you wanted with it. Of course, Clam Diggity was smart enough to play Scotty Scheffler instead of Rory and Rahm, so nice job there. But yeah, very solid lineup. I whiffed on Hoagie. I have major regrets about that one as well.
Yeah. Hoagie worked out. I was happy about that. I had some small chances. It was probably my worst week of the year. I think I only got back like 15% of my bankroll. So it was just a horrible, horrible week. But we move on. It's been like that for the last month. Tambo at least is winning. So yeah. So we got that going for us, and hopefully can break out of this slump and see what happens. Let's get to this week. The PGA Tour moves to Tampa Bay this week for the Valspar Championship, which will be played on the Copperhead Resort at Innisbrook Resort. Plenty of course history here. The tournament's been played at this venue since 2000. This course is routinely one of the hardest on tour, ranking in the top 5 most difficult courses year in and year out. Weather and wind can play a factor. I haven't even looked yet. I've been sort of under the weather today. So it's been tough sledding with work and all this stuff. But I have gotten a little bit of research in. I just couldn't get that. Well, I didn't look at the weather. So the weather does play a part in this event. I mean, last year we had 10 to 20 miles per hour. We had almost 30 mile per hour gusts. Something like that happens this week. You're going to see single digit under par, probably win. The thing is, the rain can also affect it. It can make the course a little bit softer, a little bit easier to play. So that's something to really keep an eye on as the week goes on. It is Monday at 8 o'clock when we're recording this. So I always think it's really too early to look at weather, but like Wednesday night, double check it. All these Florida courses, always double check the weather, see if there's any wave stacks, see if you can find your advantage and do your thing. Now a couple of trends, like 14 of the last 15 winners here had a top 10 during the season leading up to their victory at Copperhead. So at some point in time in the fall or early in the winter, the guy had a top 10. So not many guys going out here with like no form at all. Like we sort of saw last week. There were guys that on the top of the leaderboard that had missed like 5 cuts in a row and stuff like that. I put a note in the play in my article while watching. It was like roster all good golfers who have been playing poorly recently. It seems to work at the players for some reason. I don't know why. All right, so let's get to the meat of the course. The Copperhead course, 7,300 plus yard, par 71, 5 par 3s, 4 par 5s. The course is usually, like I said, one of the most difficult par 71 tracks on tour. It's known for the snake pit, 16, 17, 18, really, really tough holes. The winner will come to who plays those 3 holes the best, especially on Sunday. Hole 16 is always one of my favorite holes. It's a dog leg right off the tee with water lining the entire right side of the hole. And on the left side, you got, your bunkers and trees and stuff like that. And so, always a tough hole, and one of my favorites to watch. I do like this course a lot. Like you'll see some crazy shit happen on that hole. I mean, Charles Schwartzel, I think like 6 or 7 years ago, he won the event, hit an iron off the tee, leaving like 220 yards for his approach. He made par. Bill Haas had a perfect 3-wood, short-sided his approach, leading to a bogey and eventual loss in a playoff. Routinely, 16 is one of the hardest holes on the course and one of the most difficult holes on tour. Copperhead, deceptively long. 4 of the 5 par 3s are over 200 yards. All the par 5s are over 550 yards, and only 1 par 4 is under 420 yards. Add the fact that the driver off the tee, not a good play on most holes. And the course becomes really a daunting task. Placement, and long iron play. Placement off the tee, long iron play, that's what's going to be important. Now, off the tee, golfers will be challenged with tight tree-lined fairways, massive dog legs, thick rough, elevation changes, many bunkers, and water in play in about 5 holes. The fairways are average in size, but tend to get more narrow the farther you get from the tee box. Most fairways on the course get extremely narrow at about the 300-yard mark off the tee. Now, because of this, the average driving distance of Copperhead, one of the shortest on tour, routinely ranking in the bottom 10, bottom 12 for driving accuracy, each year in and year out. Actually, bottom 6. Precision and placement, more important than length, and driver is left in the bag for many golfers on a majority of holes. The greens are usually firm and are average in speed, 11 to 12 on a stimp, unless you land the ball above the hole, since most greens here slope from back to front. The greens are average in size when you take into account only square footage, but it'll look much smaller to the tour players because they'll be hitting mid to long irons on their approach shots for the majority of the holes. There's also some very long, skinny putting surfaces, which skews the average size of the greens. The par 3 4th and the par 3 14th. They come to mind as greens that are very long, but the landing area by the pin is usually very tight in width. As with most courses in Florida, the grass on the greens will be Bermuda grass, but it is overseeded with a little bit of POA. And there have been instances where the POA has been dormant at this event. I haven't heard that yet, so I'm thinking it's still going to be overseeded with POA. It just depends on the weather down there, I guess, how hot it's been. But from what I've heard, it's still POA overseeded. Basically, exactly what we saw last week, and almost the same as what we saw at the Waste Management. Those type of greens. Ryan, what are you looking for this week in golfers?
That was great. So it has been, I'm in South Florida, but it has been exceptionally hot in Florida. I assume it's been that way in the Tampa area as well. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think the course on paper is definitely longer than people give it credit for, right? But on that same note, you're not going to hit a lot of drivers. It's going to play pretty firm. It's typically pretty windy. So it really does play more like a less than driver golf course. So, anybody using their yardage filters, fantasy national yardage, like I don't mind looking at short golf courses, right? Now, the iron play is obviously going to stand out here above everything else. You do have to drive it well. So I think anytime we come here, I always look at the driving, strokes gained off the tee on these less than driver golf courses. And so kind of look at RSM and look at Harbor Town and look at Colonial. I think those are going to be pretty good markers. And I think Colonial is probably my favorite just in terms of the overlap there. And you don't really have to go much further than last year when Burns beat Davis Riley in a playoff. And look at Colonial, Burns won in a playoff over Scheffler, but it was Davis Riley who had a 2-shot lead on the back 9 on Sunday. So that's kind of what I'm looking for this week.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see about that with Colonial. If you like Colonial, let's just go to the top. In this 10K range, I'm going to go ahead and go. First, couple of questions for you when we get to this 10K range. First, who are you playing? Second, is it possible to fade this entire range? Because I could find flaws in each and every one of these 4 guys. JT, is iron game still good? Can't putt. Yep. So, Jordan Spieth can't putt. Sam Burns going through some swing adjustments. Started off strong last week, faded really bad the 2 weeks prior. And then you got Fitzpatrick, who's lost strokes with his approaches in 7 of his last 8 events.
Yep.
Who do you go up here?
Burns. I'm not So I'm not going to overthink it. And quite honestly, with how bad he's been the last couple of months, I do not think he's going to be the most popular player up here, right? And if you would have asked us 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, he would have been probably 11-5 and the most expensive guy in this field, right? I think Justin Thomas will be higher owned than him. I think Jordan Spieth will be higher owned than him. So I'll be playing Fitz and I'll be playing Burns. Look at what Burns did on
try
Sunday.
To sell me on Fitz, please, because losing strokes with his irons in 7 of his last 8 events on an approach-heavy golf course, where the second shot is the most important shot. Sell me on Fitz.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably the 3rd or 4th best player in this field, and he's not going to be popular, right? He's got it's a perfect course fit for him. He plays in Florida. He lives in Florida. He's used to this. He didn't make the cut last week, but it's not like he was terrible, right? I think he missed by 1 or 2. He finished 5th here last year, and he did everything well. I think he might have even lost a little bit putting, but he gained in every other category here last year. He's due for a get right spot. Like, I know that the iron play hasn't been good, but like, we know what Fitz does. He drives it very well, and now he drives it long. He hits his irons well. He putts well. He chips well. And if the conditions get tough, he's the guy that I want up here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I don't know if I can get off Spieth. I don't know.
Spieth may be twice as owned as Fitz this week, for one, right? I'm seeing a lot of people betting him. He faded last weekend, right? He definitely you thought he might contend and he might do well, and he made some putts and he hit some shots, but he did a lot of bad stuff. And he's got the course history to an extent. He obviously won here, but Spieth won here in 2015. He was Superman in 2015. He's only played here once in the last 5 years, and he missed the cut. So I don't know if I'm leading into that course history very much. He's going to Dallas for the match play, or to Austin next week for a match. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the spot for Spieth here.
Yeah. I really don't know what to do up top. I mean, is JT going to be low owned?
No, I think he's going to be higher than Burns. Yeah.
You think so?
I do. And again, that could change throughout the week, but I don't think people want to play Burns.
Yeah, I might have to go play Sam. It was hard for me to pick between the top 3. I wasn't going to play Fitz, but if he's going to be like 9% owned, maybe we got to. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're right, he is the 3rd or 4th best. Even with his iron struggles, he is still the 3rd or 4th best player in this field. I like the way you talked about that. So might have turned my thoughts the way around. I like this 9K range. 3 of my cash game cornerstones are going to be in this range, and one of my bets. If Tommy's ever going to fucking win an event, this could be it. You know what I'm saying? This is it. If Tommy's ever going to win a fucking event, this is it. This type of field. He doesn't have to deal with all the fucking studs above him. He is more talented than 98% of the guys in this field. If he's going to win one, this is here. You know what I'm saying? His iron game has been fine. His long irons are good. Not that many bogeys. Plenty of birdies. Par 3 scoring is great. And you got 5 of those this week. First cash game cornerstones going to be Tommy Fleetwood. Next, it's going to be right under him. And I think I might be going off the board a little bit because I don't think these guys are going to be super chalky. Justin Rose, with a really nice performance last week, he's extremely motivated to make this Ryder Cup team. He needs at least one more win. Maybe
he's already on the team.
You think as a captain's choice? Yeah, but he doesn't know that unless Luke is like, yo, you got this already.
He's very close with Luke Donald. He's got to be on that team. Yeah.
You would think so, but I mean, if he plays like dog shit for the rest of the year, it's going to make it hard for Luke to go ahead and do this. If they're boys, Rose wants to make this choice easy for his boy. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like he's playing poorly. He won 4 weeks ago, 3 events ago, top 10 last week. If you just look at him, again, long iron play, well above average, par 5 scoring and par 3 scoring, second best in the field combined. And you're getting 9 of those holes this week. Second best in the field combined, behind my third cash game cornerstone, Adam Hadwin, who is the best at par 5s and par 3s in this field. Strokes gained par 5s, strokes gained par 3s in this field in the last 50 rounds. He is the best. He has that course history here. He's played well here in the past. So those 3 guys are the guys I'm going up top. for my cash game cornerstones. And then after that, I mean, do we have to play Davis Riley?
No, I don't think so. Not at the price. I mean, I bet him, and it was more of I don't want to play a 9K chalk Davis Riley here. But yeah, I think he's going to be exceptionally popular this week.
Sounds good. I got a word from if you're in the Tampa area this week, and you want to go to a irreputable gentleman's club, check out Bear Assets. Right off the highway. Let's just say it's not your typical strip club. When you walk in, it's dirty, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. If you're in the Tampa Bay area, go check out Bear Assets. If you're going to go to the event. So anybody else in this 9K range, who do you like?
No, I think, yeah. I mean, on paper, I don't think anybody rates out better than Justin Rose. I think again, I'm concerned about the wear and tear. He's kind of looking forward to what's coming next with the match play, with the Masters, especially. But on paper, he's the best fit. I'm with you a lot on Adam Hadwin. I played a lot of him last week, main slate showdown across the board. I wasn't worried about the missed cut at the API. I was very encouraged by what I saw. Has the course history here. Has the Colonial connection too. He's played very well there. I will have a lot of Adam Hadwin this week for sure.
Well, that's good. And that makes me feel a little bit better about my cash game cornerstones because I was struggling. I was struggling a little bit trying to come up with it. Let's go to this 8K range. I mean, Justin saw. Well, one thing I don't understand, why Minwoo Lee's not playing this week. Because I thought with his driving iron and the way that he shapes the balls,
yeah,
I thought this course would be perfect for him.
So I think with him, right, he's in next week already. He's in the match play. So he's kind of got that to look forward to. And I think honestly, he's in the top 50 now. So
he doesn't have to play these events.
He does not have to play them if he wants to get into the Masters, which I think is the ultimate goal. Now, I think he also wants PGA Tour membership, right? I think he's just hoping that he's going to play well at the match play. He'll probably get a sponsor's exemption into Valero if he wants it, I would imagine. But yeah, he's just gearing up for the Masters.
Well, I mean, he needed to finish 4th by himself last week to get that special membership, and sort of blew it there at the end after coming back a little bit on the back nine.
Yeah.
But another fellow Asian, Justin Suh, up top. You got to think a win's coming for this guy. I mean, this guy was coming out with Hovland, Morikawa, all those guys. Like, this is the crew, and he's been the late bloomer. What do you expect from Justin Suh now and in the future?
Yeah, he's great. I've been very impressed by his play the last month. I bet him a lot last year on the Korn Ferry Tour, and he could not win until the Korn Ferry Finals, when, of course, I did not bet him. But I did bet him this week. I wouldn't have thought Florida golf would suit his game too well, but did it at Honda. He did it last week. Like, I've seen plenty. So all in on Suh this week.
Yeah. Who else in this 8K range? I know your guy at 8,600, right?
So, I mean, I pretty much bet this range, and I could have bet Wyndham Clark as well, but I didn't. I think he suits this course really well, but I bet Riley, I bet Suh, I bet Woodland, I bet Brandon Wu. But I see the argument for Ben Griffin and Taylor Moore as well. I'm not going to end up there, so I will have probably Suh would be number 1, Woodland would be number 2, and Brandon Wu would be number 3.
Yeah, I like Suh. He's probably my favorite play in this range. You went over it. The guy's a stud. He's going to be a winner on tour, a multiple-time winner on tour. No doubt in my mind. The guy's got skill. It just took him a little bit longer to get that confidence up, to be out there with the big boys and feels like he belongs. And he belongs. He's going to be just fine. And then I like Taylor Moore. I've always been a big fan of him, especially because of his long iron play. Really good from 175 plus. You get him out there well above average from 175 plus. You're going to see, close to half the approaches coming from that range.
Yeah.
So big fan of Taylor Moore. These guys up top. I mean, Wyndham Clark makes sense, but Suh and Moore probably my 2 favorites. Now let's go down to the 7K range. Go ahead, start us off. Who do you like?
So Jaeger is showing up on paper. I do not play that guy. So I would easily pivot to Victor Perez, my old Euro friend. He's playing great this year.
Explain. We probably have some people who listen who don't pay attention to DP World Tour at all. Tell me about Victor Perez.
So Victor Perez has kind of come into his own the last couple of years. He is probably going to get that one automatic spot for the Ryder Cup team from the European points list. So you'll expect to see him there. People may remember he finished 4th at the match play a couple of years ago, and that was sort of the first time people had seen him. He does a lot well. He is actually a great putter, especially by like Euro Tour standards. He hits it plenty long and is a really solid iron player. So, I mean, there's always risk when these guys hop over here and play for the first time each year, but he's a very, very solid player. So I have some interest there.
And this course, similar to some Euro courses that they play, it's not this wide open bombing gouts type thing that we see on the PGA Tour. Often it is more similar to a European course. More similar to a Carolina course, if you really think about it. I mean, you don't see courses like this in Florida that often.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just say, like, if your guys are looking at 8-foot par putts, I will take Victor Perez over 85% of this field. So he would be a very low-owned play there. On paper, I think, again, Johnny Vegas, he makes a lot of sense. He failed miserably as chalk last week. I think that may scare some people away. He's not my favorite play, but he could still get some ownership. I'm very happy to basically skip all of these guys and go down into like that low 7 range where I like Pearson Coody, who we've seen a few times. Very happy to go back to David Lingmerth. Very happy to go back to Eric Cole. Very happy to go back to Kramer Hickok. Just guys who have done it for multiple weeks at a time instead of just kind of looking at one round or one event.
No, I guess. What about Ludwig Aberg? The guy really showed up the last time we saw him. Number one amateur. I don't know if he's number 1 anymore. He might be number 2.
He's number 2 now, I think.
Yeah, one of the top amateur players in the world. Really showed off the last time. I mean, he was in contention. I forget what event it was, but I think it was an elevated event, and he was in contention.
Yeah, Bay Hill.
Yeah, this guy's good. Any interest? I'm interested in playing him.
Yeah, I think he's a little overpriced here. Like when we played him at API, he was 6,300, right?
Yeah,
so pretty big price jump.
You finished top 10 in an elevated event. You're going to go up.
He putted his ass off that week.
Yeah.
Not that he's a bad putter by any means, but I think I'll probably stay away at the price tag here this week.
I like Aske. A nice little second or third over in Puerto Rico last week. The kid's got massive talent. $7,500 does not seem unreasonable for him. So I like Jaeger up top. Tambo is always a big fan of Jaeger. I try to listen to Tambo as much as possible, except when I'm arguing against him.
Like what I don't understand about Jaeger is he always pops, and like even the weeks where he's playing well, at the end of the week he's like T52, and you're like,
it's weird, right?
What happened?
That is strange, but he does. You're right about that. One of these days he's going to break through. The price tag might be a little steep. Might be a little steep for him. Other guys down below, I mean, I like your Pearson Coody call. Sam Ryder seems to look like another guy who's, has a good long irons in his game. He had that nice little run a month and a half, 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. I like Ryder a lot. Neesmith, again, stats are going to look like great for him, but also the course history here has been really, really strong. I don't have a problem with using him in cash this week as like your second lowest guy. So, I mean, I don't hate that. Nick Hardy is another guy who really sort of pops for me this week. Again, above average in basically everything. Really good at par 3s. Par 5s are well above average. Top 10 in proximity from 200 yards plus. He hasn't been playing great, but he hasn't been playing great. But at this price tag, I could go ahead and take the risk just because of how I see his overall game. Anybody else in the 7K range before we move on?
Yeah, again, like I'm going all the way down, right? Like I would rather gamble on sort of the long-term ball strikers. So I mentioned Kramer Hickok. He's been playing really well. I do not mind Luke List this week. I think that potentially makes some sense here.
And Wyndham Clark, Luke List, Wyndham Clark, Gary Woodland are all 3 guys who bomb the ball, who tend to play less than driver courses pretty fucking well. It's weird for those 3.
And yeah, I think they all make a lot of sense. The only other one that I will mention here, I put out a tweet yesterday about how terrible Kevin Kisner's been playing. So he like can't break 80 right now. It's exactly why he's going to finish like 6th this week. So
Yeah, no, right.
yeah, fade me, play some Kevin Kisner.
Mullinax, probably the best with his long irons in this field. I mean, he had the top 10 a couple weeks ago at Bay Hill. Yeah, I'll play him.
It's tough. There's some guys that seem like they make a lot of sense here, like him, who have horrible course history. Like you mentioned, Sam Ryder, he's gone 68, miscut. Like this seems like it should be a good spot for them. So
when I'm looking at GPPs, I tend to look less at course history.
Yeah.
For cash, I'm looking at it. For GPPs,
I do too, but if you're missing 3 or 4 straight cuts,
that is true. I understand that, but I mean, with Cantlay last week missed 3 straight cuts of the players when in top 10. Now it's a different level of golfer.
Yeah, granted, I care a lot less about Cantlay's course.
Yeah, different level. But these guys, they're not like on tour. They're good players. They're playing well leading up to the event. I'll give them a chance, especially if people look at the course history and decide not to play him, and you get him at slightly reduced ownership. Let's go to the 6K range. I'll go with my final cash game cornerstone. I had a really hard time. It was either going to be Dylan Wu, who's made 4 straight cuts in a row, or Luke Donald, who's made 2 of his last 3 cuts and has made like 9 of his last 10 cuts here in course history. And I'm going course history because it's cash. Okay. Nice. I'm going Luke Donald. At $6,800. I just need him to make the cut, which he does every year at this event. He's made, I think, 2 of his last 3 cuts. I was looking over at his numbers, and they haven't been like exceedingly horrible. His iron game, he's gained almost 9 strokes with his irons in his last 3 events on tour. And it's not like those events have been like a long time ago. It's like Genesis, Honda, Arnold Palmer. Those 3 courses, he gained almost like 8.5, almost 9 strokes with his irons. This is a second shot course. And then you have him making every cut but one in the last decade, plus winning here, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I'll have him as my final cash game cornerstone, and I don't mind that play. So my cash game cornerstones for this week, they're going to be Fleetwood at 9,900, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get the screen back up here. So Fleetwood at 9,800, sorry. Justin Rose at 9,600, Adam Hadwin at 9,200, and Luke Donald at 6,800. It leaves like 14,600, 14,700 to fill out the rest of your lineups. Now, other guys down here in this 6K range that I can give a look at, I did speak about Dylan Wu, who's made 4 straight cuts in a row. And then you got to go Kevin Roy. I don't know. He's been, his irons have been decent here recently. I mean, he's made like 1 of his last 3 cuts, but like his irons have been strong throughout. Wesley Bryan, first top 10 in like God knows how long. Last week at the Puerto Rico Open, his strength is his approach game. Give him a chance. Maybe he can go on a little bit of a heater. Anybody else you see in these 6K range, because it's looking rough.
So I don't mind the Luke Donald thing. Don't know if I have the stomach for cash. I will throw you a little curveball and say, for course form, course fit, recent form, you just want a made cut. Zach Johnson for the same price, maybe even a little bit better than Luke Donald. You may stomach it a little better than Luke Donald. But I would look at that one. I'm also on Dylan Wu. Bet him in Puerto Rico last week. I'm not going to stop now. I think it's a great course fit, and I think he is fairly significantly underpriced from where he should be in this field. Not underpriced, but I do like Roy also. I did bet him at Puerto Rico last week. He was okay, not great. But I'll tell you, I think my favorite play this week, could do it in cash. Definitely going to do it in my single entry stuff, is Austin Smotherman. The iron play has come back, and these are definitely the types of courses you want to play Smotherman on. Iron play, long irons. You don't need to make 40 birdies to win this week.
His top 10 in proximity from 200 plus.
His ball striking last week at the Players was awesome. Played really well all week, and I believe he finished 25th here last year, his first appearance. So I would expect him to be right in the top 20 this week. So give me Austin Smotherman. I think he's 6,600.
Yeah, I just clicked his name. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be playing him as well.
Yeah.
Anybody else we need to talk about before we move on?
I don't. Let me take a look here real quick. So Kyle Stanley will probably make the cut.
Take me the guy. God, I can't. Is he still playing? I didn't even know he was still playing.
He popped at Honda with the iron play. It was like off the charts. Like he gained like 5 strokes approach, and then there were some people who bet him for the Puerto Rico Open there, and he played okay, not great. But I think he can make this cut as well. But no, there's not much else down there this week.
Yeah, not much. Let's go to our bets. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah. So kind of as I mentioned, peppered that sort of 8 to 9K range. So I have Davis Riley and Justin Suh at 40 to 1. Gary Woodland at 45, Brandon Wu at 66, Kramer Hickok at 150, and Austin Smotherman at a very generous 230 to 1.
Nice. So I only have 3 bets right now because I want to start doing each ways. And so I signed up for the site that's open 365 days a year.
It's a good
but
site.
I'm having trouble depositing money into it. So I have not made those each way bets yet. So the only bets that I've made so far are Tommy Fleetwood at 25 to 1, Justin Suh and Riley at 35 to 1. And then I'm going to throw at least 3 or 4 long shots in there. And I'm going to try my each way game as long as that site allows me to deposit. I don't know what's going on. I signed up today. They're not letting me deposit.
Can't you get into that other site down by the river at this?
Okay. Yeah. Do they do?
They do each ways
well?
too. You get 6 places there too, and I think you can bet it either in Virginia or in Maryland. I don't know.
You can in Virginia. I've seen it. I've seen ads for it.
And that one you can probably get money on. For
365, you can go up to 12 spots.
Yeah, 8, 12. Yeah, but then they cut the odds pretty dramatically. Like I kind of like that Rivers because I feel like 6 is a good spot. It's just a little more than 5.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I might have to check that out. If they don't let me deposit, I'll go to that site. Because I think I'm going to start each race. I think this is a perfect event for it. I mean, you've seen some, favorites win this event. I mean, it's going to happen, but you've seen some longer shot guys too back in the day. Recently it's just been sort of the top guys, but this type of course, this difficulty, I think you could see someone from the back go out and get it done, especially since there's no Rahm, there's no Scheffler, there's no Rory. With this field, I think you can go and make those type of bets, and I'm pretty sure I will. I'll finalize that in my article on Gups Corner. One and done.
I definitely haven't used him yet, so I'm just gonna use Burn.
I was thinking Burns or Fleetwood. I just have a feeling about Tommy this week. If he's gonna win,
I just don't think you're gonna want to use Burns anywhere else. You may get to the point later in the year, like at the Open Championship, you're like, oh, I've used all my studs. Let me play Tommy or something, like the Scottish Open. But I'm definitely not saving Burns for anything. So
I hear you on that. All right. So why don't you go tell everyone where they can find you there?
Yep. So Golflandia podcast, we will hopefully be back up and running soon. I'm on Twitter, rbaroff427. DMs are always open. And let's have a week, man.
Yep. You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article on gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership to Gups Corner. All right. We're Degens, not the best field, but we deal with it. We work with it. We grind. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degen Nation. Go to Bear Assets in Tampa. It's the shit. Trust me.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.